Coming up next on Good Morning El Paso on this Monday, a nurse who cared for a deceased Ebola patient now has Ebola herself. Investigators want to know if it was a breach of protocol that led to her contracting the virus. Plus,
there's traffic all over the place, from Mesa to Paso, accidents all over.
Well, frustration is mounting for a lot of drivers over recent closures. Why we won't be seeing an end to them anytime soon. Sorry to tell you. And it was a windy day in the borderland yesterday. Can we expect the same today? The storm track weather coverage continues right now.
Live, where news comes first. From the Mesilla Valley and Las Cruces to El Paso and the borderland. This is ABC7's Good Morning El Paso.
We now have the first case in the U.S. of the deadly Ebola virus spreading from person to person. The Texas Health Presbyterian Hospital in Dallas is now trying to figure out how one of its nurses contracted Ebola from Thomas Eric Duncan. He's the man who died from Ebola last week. So was it a breach of protocol? That's the big question this morning. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Bob Harp. Hillary is off today, and we'll get the latest on the Ebola situation coming up in just a bit. First, though, a lot of traffic news to tell you about today that could affect your morning commute. We can tell you right now that there was a wreck overnight at about 2 o'clock this morning on I-10 East, right in front of the fountains at Farah. Again, happened at 2 o'clock, but the freeway is now open again, which is good news. Police had to shut down the freeway while they investigated. We know one person was taken to the hospital. The extent of injuries, though, is still not known. And the traffic cameras also showing the situation happening on the west side. Now, I-10 West near Porfirio Diaz was totally blocked off because of the construction. Well, it opened up at about 5:50 this morning, so about 12 minutes ago it reopened. So if you're westbound, you're good to go. The other side of it, though, is I-10 East at Southern Park. That is still blocked off. So just keep in mind, if you were on the west side heading into the city, you were still going to be caught up in that mess having to exit Southern Park. We'll let you know as soon as it reopens. Well, it was a windy day in the borderland yesterday. I'm sure you heard a lot of it. Crystal, can we expect any more of that? Good morning.
Yeah, well, the good news is the winds will still be a bit breezy to start your day, but dying down throughout, so not nearly as windy as it was yesterday. Yesterday, we had the trough and cold front move on through. Today, it's the colder air behind it that's going to affect us. Starting off with our clouds and radar map, you can see there's no rain for us to track, no clouds for us to track, but there certainly is cooler temperatures for us to look at. 57 in El Paso right now. Your winds are at 7 miles per hour. Las Cruces, 9-mile-per-hour winds at 55 degrees. As we move through the rest of your morning and then into your afternoon, temperatures won't be warming much. We're only looking at low 70s in some areas. We'll check in at your forecast highs coming up in around 10 minutes.
All right, thanks so much for that, Crystal. We do appreciate that. And just a second ago, I was telling you about how I-10 had been closed in some parts overnight. Again, still at I-10 East and Southern Park, it remains closed. But look at the situation yesterday. All of these closures are because of the construction happening over that Yandel overpass. Now, that caused the bumper-to-bumper traffic for Sunday drivers. And it was all to remove that overpass so the new Spur 1966 project could be completed. Now, that is the one that is connecting Schuster to Paisano, and all those UTEP students can bypass I-10 altogether. Now, this is video of the construction. Unfortunately, it was not the last closure you'll be seeing, though. That's because we were told the project will take another year to complete. At least one driver we spoke with says this is causing a big inconvenience for him, and also the traffic is just unbearable. He thinks TxDOT should help with the traffic control during the closures, saying one lane should be open for at least trucks and another for regular traffic. One man says that he's just tired of construction altogether in El Paso.
There's too many construction projects going around. Way too many construction projects going on. Why don't you just concentrate on one area, finish that off, and continue to the other one?
Well, TxDOT officials are saying the Spur 1966 is absolutely crucial to connect UTEP, surrounding neighborhoods, and medical facilities to Paisano Drive. The total cost of just that project, $31 million. Well, switching gears this morning, a man accused of shooting a couple in central El Paso. He's still on the loose right now. Maybe you can help police find him. This happened at a parking lot on the 700 block of North Mesa. That's where it connects with Yandel. Saturday mornings when it happened. Police saying a man and a woman got into an argument with a man who was inside a different truck. That is when the man pulled out a handgun and shot the couple several times, according to police, and then just took off. Police say that this man was Hispanic, driving a red four-door Dodge, and it was a Ram. If you have any information on this, you are asked to call authorities immediately. It is your voice, your vote. We have important races coming up to the voters in this next few weeks. In Texas, I should say, the new voter ID laws were going to be in place, but that's not really a sure thing any longer. Let's go back to Good Morning El Paso's Andrew J. Polk for the details. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Bob. This is going to be the first major election since Texas brought in those strict new requirements to be able to vote, but a federal judge has halted those requirements for now. Now, the ruling is a significant setback for those largely Republican-backed photo ID measures in the state of Texas and others that have swept across the U.S. And locally, on last night's ABC 7 Extra, guest Bob Pena, the elections administrator for El Paso's Republican Party, and Glenn Butch Maya, the chairman for El Paso's Democratic Party, debated the realities of the law. Pena said that the laws are important to protect legitimate elections, while Maya said that anecdotal evidence isn't enough to keep people away from the polls.
They're asking for more and more and more and more and more to prove that you have a right to vote, that I have a right to vote. And that's what we're arguing, is that why should we have to prove to a total stranger, a clerk, a judge, an alternate judge, it doesn't matter what partisanship they are, that I'm who I am. Very few cases have been proven wrong.
And so again, early voting begins soon in Texas and is already underway in New Mexico. So for more on polling sites and registration and when to vote, visit our homepage at KVIA.com. Bob?
All right, thanks so much for that, Andrew. We have some breaking news to tell you about right now. Our assistant news director just coming into the studio saying there is an apartment fire being reported over at Dale and Dodge. That is by the El Paso Community College Valle Verde campus. We're being told that the second floor of this apartment complex, or one of the units, might be fully engulfed in flames. We have an ABC 7 crew headed to the scene right now. Again, Dale and Dodge. This is just south of I-10 in the Valle Verde area for the EPCC campus. Dale and Dodge, an apartment fire. We will keep you updated. Hopefully everybody got out okay. Let's talk about the latest now on the Ebola situation. A nurse who cared for the patient who just recently died now has Ebola as well. Investigators are looking into whether she even got protective gear that was removed incorrectly or put on correctly. We go to ABC's Tamon Bradley right now for the latest.
This morning, the first known transmission of Ebola here in the United States. A nurse in her 20s who cared for Ebola patient Thomas Eric Duncan has contracted the disease. The hospital says the nurse was wearing full protective gear, a face mask, 2 layers of gloves, shoe covers, and leg covers. But somehow she got infected anyway. CDC officials say the woman was exposed due to a breach of protocol at the hospital, and she may not be the only person.
Unfortunately, it is possible in the coming days that we will see additional cases of Ebola.
The nurse started showing symptoms Friday and drove herself to the hospital. This morning, officials are retracing her steps, trying to determine who she had contact with. One person, as a precaution, has been placed in isolation.
Definitely it's scary being in Dallas, but then when it's like right here.
Those same hazmat crews who decontaminated Duncan's apartment are now working on the nurses, while officials spread word in person and by phone.
Please be advised that a healthcare worker who lives in your area has tested positive for the Ebola virus.
Although the CDC has issued guidelines to hospitals for identifying and treating Ebola, some healthcare workers say they're confused.
When the nurses become infected, they are blamed for not following the protocols. That is not going to work. We cannot.
This morning, health officials have ruled out Ebola for a passenger who became sick aboard a flight that landed at LAX yesterday and a patient in Boston just back from West Africa. Tamon Bradley, ABC News, Washington.
A fetus that was found dumped in an El Paso park earlier this year will be honored a little bit later today. We'll let you know what the Bishop of El Paso plans to do in her memory. That's coming up. And the Catholic Church is celebrating Reverence for Life this month. We'll hear from one man who reminds us to care for children as he remembers those he lost. And hey, where have the warm temps gone? Did the wind carry them out yesterday, Crystal? You're talking about a cool down.
Yeah, pretty much. We are looking at much cooler temps, not just this morning, but this afternoon and especially tonight. Might want to break the extra blanket. We're going to talk about that coming up after your break.
This is ABC 7, where news comes first.
You're watching ABC 7's Good Morning El Paso with Hillary Florin. Bob Harp. Storm track weather meteorologist Crystal Cly. And live reports from Denise Olivas.